All right, awesome. Hey everyone, Ian and Will from Syndicate. So we're going to talk about networks of playable characters and what that means. Will, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, absolutely. So first, I'll start with a question. It's a book recommendation. How many of you have read Damon or Freedom by Daniel Suarez? Raise your hand if you have. Yes. Yes. Any more? Any more? Okay. So this is the most I've ever seen in a single room, which is 2. I've asked this question in rooms full of VCs, LPs, founders. It's always 0 to 1 hands. So this is the right crowd. We're already at the peak. And why do I recommend Damon and Freedom by Daniel Suarez? So when I read this book, it completely changed my life. And it completely changed my entire outlook on how autonomous agents, how crypto, how AI will interact. The reason why is that the book is very interesting. The first one, Damon, was written in 2006 before Bitcoin, and it essentially envisioned how an autonomous system would both come online and stay online. It's a more pessimistic book and a bit more of a cynical framing, depending on your perspective. Freedom, on the other hand, was written in 2010 after Bitcoin was released. And Freedom focuses less on how the network stays online and more on how networks of agents, both human and autonomous, interact. It talks about these networks as daemons and was referenced in the Ethereum white paper as a key inspiration for Ethereum. At the same time, almost no one has read it, so you read this book, you have a roadmap for the future. A lot of what we do, Damon and Freedom, influences our perspective, and you read it, and you're one of the few people in the room who will see what the next 5 to 10 years looks like.
Excellent. So I think this framing of like networked playable characters is really interesting because one of the implications of that we see is that networks of playable characters are going to start to organically form via crypto and other technologies in the coming years. So if you look at agents right now, like the interaction model with them is very one-to-one. It's a single player experience, right? You talk to a GPT, you talk to an application. In some cases, although we don't really see this yet, like you talk to an agent that represents a person, and it's a very solo kind of experience, right? And that's what things are today. Where we see things going is these collaborative networks of agents starting to emerge. So the interaction model changes from a one-to-one to actually a many-to-many kind of interaction model. It's not a single player experience, but it's actually a multiplayer experience. And one of the interesting implications of that is that agents will need to start to be able to interface with each other as well as transact with each other, likely on chain. You may want to hold it a little closer.
Yeah, sounds good. And then the way we think about this is that as the on-chain environment will be the common meeting place for all these agents. So on-chain, what exactly is the benefit of being on-chain? You have standardized, interoperable, open data, all via APIs that already are well supported across an entire ecosystem. Once you get data on-chain, you've made your data interoperable. You don't need bespoke integrations from one place to another. You have this common gathering ground, this common meeting point for agents to interact. So that's why the way we see the world is that even agents that are off-chain primarily will likely be writing data on-chain in some form or another because it is the fastest, most interoperable place to do so, especially as costs drop lower and lower from dollars to cents to millionths of a penny. And that's a lot of the way we see the world. The way we see the world is helping people get to this gathering place even faster. So if the goal is to get data on-chain so that other groups can start to compose with it and interact with it, we want to basically make it very easy and very simple to do so. We don't want to talk too much about it. We want to show more about it. So we have one cool demo that will really bring this home.
Cool. So we're going to walk through a demo of Syndicate APIs connected to ERC 6551. And what we're going to be demonstrating is a network of agents that are actually collaborating and transacting with each other on chain. So just to give you kind of a little bit of context, Will has a PFP, this blit map at the very top. We're going to use that to log into an application. So that thing will have like a TBA of its own. And via that TBA, he's going to be interacting with another agent or a set of agents. In this case, Jesse from Base, who has a PFP as well and a TBA. And then Jesse's agent is going to interact with other agents as well. So, okay, I know that sounds kind of weird, but it'll make sense in a second. For any of you who, like, this screen is a little small, so if you want to come up closer, you might be able to see it a little bit better. Okay, so this is an application that we imagined. It's called NPC Network. The kind of idea here is that it's a social network for both people as well as autonomous agents to interact with each other via this interface. So this is Will. He's logged in with his NFT, right, via 6551. And these are the different agents that Will is connected to on the social network. So one is a moonbird, which may or may not be connected to a real person. It's kind of anon or whatever. There's Jesse, who has a CryptoPunk, who we're going to talk to in a second. And then there's also Julia with a CryptoCoven, who also happens to be on this network. And maybe there's others as well, right? And these are the kinds of things that these agents want to like engage on. So you see Jesse wants to talk about building on Base, also is really into photography, so if you want to talk to his agent about that, you can do that too. Okay, so Will wants to talk to Jesse about this new idea that he has for an NPC social network on Base. So we're gonna talk to Jesse's agent here. Okay, so I'm gonna zoom in. I don't know if you guys can see this, but this is Jesse's agent, and there are a few different pre-filled kind of ideas as to what Jesse wants to talk about. So like latest developments on Base, hiring opportunities, and then ways to collaborate. So we're gonna talk to Jesse. Will's gonna talk to Jesse about collaboration opportunities. Okay, so Jesse's agent here is saying, "Cool, I'm excited. What do you want to collaborate on?" So Will's gonna say, "I have an idea for a new social network for NPCs that I want to build on Base using ERC 6551. Okay, so Jesse's saying, okay, that sounds like a really interesting idea. And what Jesse's agent is now doing is it's actually recommending other sub-agents within Jesse's network that we can now talk to. So one example is an engineering agent at Base to like help with like solutioning different problems or technical issues. Another is matching with other founders for projects. And then this third agent is related to providing grants within the Base ecosystem. So Jesse's agent is asking, who do we want to talk to? So Will says, you know, because it's just me, I'd love to get a grant from Base to get started. Okay, so now Jesse's agent is doing something behind the scenes via our APIs. And you'll see what that is in a second. So Jesse's agent says, I'm so excited about this, I'm actually going to personally support this project. So what's happened is that Jesse's agent has now sent 10,000 USDC to the grants agent saying, I personally support this, and then that's going to be added on top of the grant from the Base ecosystem grant. So it's both making that on-chain transaction and then returning the URL of that transaction hash here in the chat. So I'm going to link to it. And this is on Basescan, and you can see that 10,000 USDC just got transferred. Okay, so going back to the demo, it's now saying, okay, I've sent 10,000 USDC personally from my own agent's TBA to the Base agent. Now go talk to the Base ecosystem grant agent. So I'm going to click on this link. And now it's transitioning to the Base ecosystem grant agent. So great to meet you. So hey there. Okay, so the Base ecosystem grant agent is now saying, I understand that you just talked to Jesse, and that he sent my wallet 10,000 USDC, which you can see on Basescan. So we'll go there. And And you can see that there was a transaction here 1 minute ago for 10,000 USDC to this wallet. And more good news, on top of that, from the base ecosystem grant fund, you're going to get 40,000 USDC on top of the 10,000 that Jesse also committed. And so now the agent is asking, do you have a TBA that we can send this to? So in this scenario, Will actually hasn't set up his TBA and he hasn't logged in before. So the agent is asking, do you have a TBA? And Will's going to say, no, I don't yet have a TBA. So the agent is saying, no problem. It wants to confirm that the NFT, that your identity, is this token ID, which is 1539, and the contract address of that NFT is this here, which is the Blitmap contract address. So Will's going to say, yep, that's me. And what the base ecosystem grant agent is doing is it's using 6551 and the get account function to actually generate the TBA address for Will. So the TBA address is here. The agent has generated that. And if you go to Basescan again and we search for that address, you can see that there's nothing here. So Will has not interacted with the TBA. He's not, received anything. There are no transactions in the TBA. Okay, so going back to the demo, please confirm that you'd like the 50,000 USDC sent to your TBA. Okay. Yep, that sounds, great. Okay, so now the base ecosystem grant agent is initiating a 50,000 USDC transaction to the TBA behind the scenes. And then it's going to return the transaction hash once it's been completed. So you can see that 50,000 USDC has been sent, and here's the transaction hash. So we can click on that here. Is that it? Oh, that's weird. Interesting. I don't know why it's like so not just 50,000 whole. But anyway, you can see that 50,000 USDC has been sent by the ecosystem grant agent. And if we go back to the TBA of Will in the ERC20 tokens, you can now see that 50,000 USDC has been sent to his TBA. So what's interesting is after this, right, like the agent is now saying, please keep us updated on your progress. What's really interesting is that now Will can log into his TBA and start taking control of those funds. But previously, right, he didn't have the TBA, he didn't log in and all this stuff. So we see this as like a really powerful way to actually progressively onboard into experiences and also into 6551 where users don't necessarily need to initiate all these on-chain transactions, set up their TBA before even interacting with an app or an agent. Cool. Okay, that actually worked. Yay. All right.
Yeah, and the cool part about this is that it's as simple as possible to set up. So all of the code in terms of getting these actions on chain, whether it's transferring funds or whether it's writing some other kind of data, like your participation in NPC Day, or any other, or the fact that you won one of the trivia games, all of that is just a few lines of code. Lines of code you see there. A little hard to read, but it's basically contract address, function signature, chain ID, and you're essentially good to go. One thing also to call out that's very important is that you don't need a custom backend for any of this. We really want to speed up the adoption of TBAs and the adoption of agents, and the way you do so is by essentially having the easiest integration point possible. So that's very much our framing, is like seamless integration with third-party APIs. If you want to activate a TBA, if you want to have data written on chain, if you want to transfer funds on chain, it should be just everything taken care of for you. You write a few lines of code and you're good to go.
Cool. So this is not like some science fiction thing, right? Like ERC 6551 is available now. The APIs that we use to enable this, which were both Syndicate APIs as well as OpenAI APIs, but there's a lot of obviously like both off-chain as well as on-chain kind of AI things, as Casey mentioned earlier. This is possible now, and we see a lot of opportunities to actually like unlock kind of 6551, unlock Web3, and also unlock agents like now. So I think some of the really like cool things are, as we showed in the demo, this like idea of progressive onboarding into application, like agents and applications, using this. So you know, if it's fully on chain, you have to like you have to have users set up the TBA, you have to like have them take control of it, you have to have them initiate every single transaction before even using an application. But as kind of shown here, or interfacing with an agent, right? As we showed here, like you can provide that value in those interactions before even onboarding them fully and them fully taking control of the TBA. So we think that kind of like design paradigm is really, really promising. I think, you know, some of these other things that you see on this list, if you're close enough, like whether it's, you know, higher kind of onboarding and conversion rates, better UX, these hybrid off-chain and on-chain kind of interactions, and seamless integrations, like there's just so much more that we can do here, and especially as kind of the off-chain like AI world like progresses, and it will continue to progress, but like these new developments like ERC 6551 and stuff, is we can start to like converge these two things and really unlock opportunities now as opposed to like years from now.
So what does this future look like? Well, we gave some recommendations on how to see the future at the beginning. Damon and Freedom sketch out a very compelling vision of this, but there's a world that can emerge from these autonomous agents that we find very, very interesting. So when you have the fundamental primitive of one, breaking down the distinctions between human and AI avatars, where they become these token-bound accounts, they become these agents, and it doesn't really, and who is piloting them starts to become less relevant compared to the on-chain track record of that identity and what it's done. You can start to have a verifiable form of trust. And that gets very interesting because if you look at, for example, agent-based workforces, maybe you are, for example, in like bringing on someone, looking at like Casey's previous talk, bringing on someone to, for example, help you fine-tune an LLM. It doesn't really matter whether the person doing the fine-tuning is a human or an AI. What matters is the on-chain track record, what you can see, how many jobs it's completed, the funds that have been transferred, any testimonials, track record of success. All of that starts to break down these distinctions where who is human and who is not starts to matter a lot less. The other area that this kind of builds up to is like essentially these like corporations that are like in like we have NPCs like non-player characters, like maybe there are these like non-player corporations. There are these autonomous entities that are making markets, buying, selling, even commissioning the production of new goods. That's one thing that Damon talks about, is that there's even, for example, this corporation, this Damon, will hire people to do specific tasks, and it will essentially coordinate this like higher level entity that everyone participates in. This world of agents is very compelling, and the provocation I'd ask everyone to take away is what happens when the distinction between humans and AI stops mattering? What does the world look like then?
Yeah, I think we have some time for Q&A. Oh, also shout out to Sam from the Syndicate team for building this demo with us. It's amazing that it actually worked with no hiccups.
If you have questions, we have Sam over here. You want to wave? And then we have the Syndicate team over here. If you want to, Syndicate team. Yeah. So yeah, come find us. We love to jam on this stuff.
Yeah. Cool. Any questions? Yeah, I mean, for this demo, like, I mean, I'm not focused on this, and our team's not focused on this, but you know, for this demo, we just like loaded the GPT prompt or the OpenAI prompt with like, you know, the types of interactions, and then we used GPT functions to be able to call kind of like external APIs. So it was pretty simple from that perspective, but like, you know, that's really for a demo. I think that like, you know, you can get obviously into much more advanced like, you know, training and prompt tuning stuff, particularly when like you use like decentralized AI models. But for this demo, we didn't do that, just to keep it simple.
Yep, and yeah, by the way, to replay the question for anyone on the live stream, it was about essentially the agent training process. How do you best train those agents? How do you have judgment involved? That's, I think, also where the on-chain track record starts to become very relevant. The more is on-chain, the more you can judge someone's legitimacy. Let's say someone's done 5 or 10 bounty caster tasks, and all of those tasks, all of those bounties they've done are on-chain and available. It doesn't matter, for example, whether the person completing the bounty is a human or an AI, but what matters is the track record of their output. They've had a lot of bounties that are completed successfully, and you know that if they've done a lot of great 10K bounties, they'll probably be able to do a lot with a 10K, 20K grant. You can also add in judgment. I wouldn't necessarily imply whether that's human or AI judgment, but you could add in judgment in the loop at various points. Maybe, for example, since this is all on-chain, you have a staking mechanism where someone can stake either money or reputation on someone else completing it successfully, which would help people bootstrap a little bit more if they don't have an on-chain track record yet. But I do think that the more data gets on-chain in this really common interoperable way, the more you can start to ingest various aspects into these models.
Like something that is pretty obvious is like we could have also introduced like read APIs to read off the blockchain to use that data to then like feed into the prompt. And then even like, kind of what Will was saying, like agent corporations or organizations, one agent could then farm out kind of the logic or analysis to a different agent to then process like those inputs and then return it back, right? So that's, I mean, obviously we didn't do that in this demo, but like doing that is very possible today, especially with a lot of the infrastructure that exists, which is really cool.
Yeah, that sounds great. So for the live stream, essentially the question is, what does this new stack look like for developers? What pieces become integrated? How do you integrate these pieces, the blockchain, Syndicate, LLMs, together? So I'd start from the foundation of the stack, which is where all the data is. So in our opinion, all of that data will end up moving to L3s. We've set up a few L3s already. We're really excited about their potential. If you want to chat about L3s versus L2s, why they matter, I'm happy to talk at length about that. Come find me after. And then that starts to be pretty different than what was possible before, because the transactions on L3s are now a millionth of a penny. Like a few dollars in gas gets you hundreds of thousands or millions of transactions. And that world is meaningfully different. That world only started to emerge in the last few months. So looking 6 to 12 months ahead, L3s as the common place for data will start to emerge more. And then there's the question of how you read and write to that L3. That's where we fit in. So at Syndicate, we focus on getting transactions on-chain and also helping you read data from the chain. So if you want to, for example, submit someone's successful request, if you want to submit a result, if you want to write anything on-chain, that's where it would fit in. And then what you would hook Syndicate up to would be the interface of your choosing. Maybe that's an LLM, maybe that's a website, maybe that's a Farcaster frame, maybe that's another agent, and you're passing data between agents seamlessly and composing them together. So that's the stack. The new stack looks pretty simple because the L3 as a foundation is a really powerful foundation. Like, you don't need to worry about auth. The blockchain handles auth. You don't need to worry about interoperability. The blockchain handles interoperability. You don't need to worry about data storage. The blockchain handles data storage. We make it really, really easy to use blockchain in that way at scale. And then from there, you write your interface and you're good to go.
So Syndicate is more like an API switchboard in a way. It's not handling the 651 progressive EDA interaction from a UX perspective. We're, as
Yep, exactly. So the question was about essentially is Syndicate a backend API? Is Syndicate handling the interface? So Syndicate serves as a backend API here. So we want to be interface agnostic. Some people are accessing us through Farcaster Frames. Some people are accessing us through Stripe payments. And we want to be able to support a wide variety of interfaces. We do build integrations into specific services like Farcaster to make it easier. So one integration that we're very interested in building is like a 6551 integration where like you could predict the 6551 address in advance, which you can do, and then create it once there's an interaction from it, helping generally like cut down on some of the throughput considerations. So there are wrappers that can make it easier and help you with the progressive onboarding. But yeah, it's a API that's hopefully very simple to integrate, and you can just take it to any interface you want.
Yeah, and TokenBound has great like APIs and SDK for the like TBA stuff. Like Sam, I think we kind of leveraged some of that with the utility, right, to do that for this demo. So it's pretty simple. Yeah, really good. How are we doing on time? Good?
Okay, yeah.
One more question? Yeah, sure. Anyone? Where can we get a hat? Over there at the table. Awesome. Great. Yeah, love to talk later. Thanks.
Future Primitive